You'd be surprised how often just giving the customers what they want leads to success. Hey there, kiddos, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, hoping that you are having a great day. And in today's video, I want to sit back, relax, and have a little conversation with you guys about how intelligent companies and corporations really are, especially when it comes to the gaming ecosystem. You see, let's talk about Ubisoft. Yeah, we're talking about video games today. Ubisoft, as you may or may not know, have not been in the best. They have not been doing their best lately. They recently released a game called Assassin's Creed Shadows, which, if it were made perhaps 10 or 15 years ago, might have been a home run slam dunk of a game. Fans of the Assassin's Creed franchise, which used to be one of the heavy hitters in the gaming industry, have wanted for years a Assassin's Creed game set in Japan where you go around as a ninja performing ninja assassinations. It seems like a easy game to make with a fan base that just absolutely wants it, but for whatever reason, and I don't know the reason, I don't know why Assassin's Creed Shadows failed, but for some reason it did fail, and it failed miserably. And people have attributed it to different things. You know, the gameplay is not that great. The graphics are kind of lackluster. The RPG elements that have been shoved into the Assassin's Creed franchise kind of suck. Some people are attributing it to this Yasuke character, a black samurai who may or may not have existed. The evidence for him existing is frail at best. And Ubisoft kept doubling down on the character when not a lot of people were all that interested in historic revisionism in a franchise that once upon a time really propped itself up on historic realism, historic accuracy. In fact, a fun fact, the first Assassin's Creed game, the trailer for it had the main character, Altair, using a crossbow. They removed that in the game, if I'm remembering correctly, because the time period the game was set in did not have widely accessible crossbows. So they took that out of the game because historical accuracy was something that used to be pretty important to Ubisoft once upon a time. Why do I say that? Well, in the backlash of Assassin's Creed Shadows' failure and absolute atrocious performance, Ubisoft has come out and announced that they are making some changes going forward, including canceling another Assassin's Creed game that was apparently in the works, one that we know very few details about. This one was supposed to be set in the American Civil War. The main character being a black former slave fighting on the fighting for the sake of freedom and taking on, evil Southern separatists and the newly forming KKK, I think, are what was from the article. And what struck me as odd during that, reading that little announcement article, is that doesn't seem like that bad of a game idea, okay? Some of the best Assassin's Creed titles, in my opinion, are the ones that take a little snapshot of history and add some fantastic elements to it. The American Civil War for Assassin's Creed 3 is still my favorite game in the franchise. I love Connor as a character, and seeing how his character as a Native American interacted with the burgeoning American nation throughout his lifetime, it was kind of compelling to me. I thought that was a really good story. I thought he was a fun character, and more importantly, I really like how maybe not perfectly historically accurate it was, but you get to meet a lot of historical characters. A lot of details seem to have been kept accurate to a point, with little splattering of assassin and Templar nonsense actually being the driving force behind the war. So I feel like if Ubisoft had made a game based on the Civil War with that perspective, getting to play as an assassin who was a former slave who's fighting for the freedom of his brethren, I feel like that would have been a home run. I feel like that would have been a game worth playing. I feel like that would have been enjoyable. More importantly, I feel like that would have been a game that would have resonated better with the Assassin's Creed franchise as a whole. You see, when we were given the Japan Assassin's Creed, it had absolutely nothing to do with what the fans wanted. It was mostly the people at Ubisoft patting themselves on the back for their wonderfully inclusive ideas and all that jazz. And it's not something I want to get into here. But more to the point, it wasn't really what the fans wanted. The fans wanted a really cool ninja-themed Assassin's Creed game, and they didn't get it. And now I feel like if it had not happened, if that, Assassin's Creed Shadows did not occur, I feel like a Civil War Assassin's Creed game would have been something that the fans would have wanted. And now we're never going to see it. And you know why we're never going to see it? Because companies get so focused on huffing their own fumes that they completely lose track of the plot. And they forget what their core audience desires. And as a result, they suffer in the long term, short term or long term. Assassin's Creed, in my opinion, did not lose the plot with Assassin's Creed Shadows. In my opinion, it completely lost the plot after, I would say Assassin's Creed 4 is when it really starts to go downhill, but after 4, the London ones, the Egyptian ones, the Viking one, when they start adding a bunch of RPG elements to the game and keep adding more and more nonsense to it, Assassin's Creed had been on a downhill for a while. Shadows was not just suddenly this really bad game that everyone hated, and that was the only one. No, there have been a bunch of bad Assassin's Creed titles over the years. While I like to say that Ubisoft could have given fans what they wanted with this theoretical Civil War title, the fact is they had not been giving fans what they've wanted for a while now. And why is this? Why am I talking about this on the channel? Well, because it's not exclusive to Ubisoft. There are plenty of companies out there that will do something that seems to be doing well. Assassin's Creed Origins apparently was doing well. It was doing fine, even if there were people complaining about it. Those were the minority. They weren't the major, they weren't the primary audience. They were, a crazy outlier. Anyway, let's talk about Universes Beyond and how the people complaining about it are just a crazy outlier. You see, a company can do something that looks like a good idea for a long time, even if there is large and loud parts of the player base, their primary fan base, who are against it. And all it really takes is one really, really bad decision from a company once they're on this path, once they've made these decisions for so long. One really bad one is all it's going to take to completely drain all interest in what that company is doing. We've talked about this on the channel before. It's called the trust thermocline. And it's a steady decrease in interest and then a sudden drop from whatever straw that breaks the camel's back. And the reason companies are largely ignorant of this, like the reason Ubisoft, for instance, was ignorant of the fan distrust of the company, the fan dislike of what they were doing, is because so many of these companies are completely out of touch with their fans. They are disconnected from their primary consumer base. They rely so heavily on these really strict, limited polls and, what's the other one? There's another word for it. Poll? No. It's like a poll. The word's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember what it is. Survey, polls and surveys, limited polls and surveys that they give these really small sample sizes. And they ask them these very specific, very limited questions that don't usually allow responders to articulate, to the best of their ability, why they might or might not like a given thing. And so these companies, they take these data points combined with sales data, and they use this to help them inform the decisions that they're going to make in the future going forward. But here's the thing. Those limited polls, those surveys, and those sales points, those paint a very narrow picture of what's going on in the world of the fan base, the community, etc. So when you're only largely relying on that kind of input, you kind of become detached from what the fans actually want. If you have a survey where it says, which are you more likely to play, X game or Y game, and fans are going to answer X over Y, but just because they're more likely to enjoy that kind of game doesn't mean they're going to like it, just more likely, And it really is a shame because so many companies rely on practices like this really disconnected practices, instead of, really absorbing fan feedback in a natural way, that it really does lead to these situations where these companies are completely distanced from how people are engaging with their properties. And it leads to situations like what we got with Assassin's Creed Shadows, where Ubisoft was like, oh no, the new fans, they're a problem. They don't like this. They are problematic and all that jazz. And how dare they not like Assassin's Creed right now? It's going perfectly. But if you take a step back and you look at it over the last 10 years, there's been lots of grumblings about Assassin's Creed, and people were just not happy with the franchise in general. And it wasn't that they just suddenly hated Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's that Shadows was, for a lot of them, just the straw that broke the camel's back. Similarly, if you look at Magic the Gathering, whatever theoretical set in the future causes a bunch of people to just jump out of Magic the Gathering, it's not going to be that they just suddenly don't like that set. It's going to be, if this were to happen, theoretically, it's going to be that there's been a lot of grumblings in the Magic the Gathering community for a while now. A lot of decisions made by Wizards of the Coast that the fans didn't enjoy. And suddenly, this one thing came along that was so bad that just a lot of people jumped ship. Could happen with Pokemon too, but I don't think so. Could happen with Yu-Gi-Oh! Theoretically, but I don't know. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is weird. Anyway, that's all I got for you kids today. Please like, share, and subscribe. This video is not me saying that Magic is going to fail, by the way. I don't want you guys to take that away. I'm just saying that if this were to happen in the future, this would kind of be what leads up to it. So take that, and not the idea that Uncle Frank is saying that Magic is going to fail. So anyway, please like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you love Assassin's Creed Shadow? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.